Greetings everyone, Slizzle466 here, and in today's video I'd like to present you with the best decks to ladder with February 2019. I've broken these decks up into 4 tier lists with the decks placed in no particular order, and the deck lists that I've taken are from Twitter, Reddit, the Wild Hearthstone Discord, with the authors credited appropriately. In tier 1 we have Kingsbane Rogue, Even Shaman, Anyfin Paladin, Mecha'Thun Warlock, Even Warlock, Cube Warlock, and Reno Warlock. Kingsbane Rogue is one of the top aggressive decks in the current meta, and M3S had a lot of success with his list, running a single Goblin Auto Barber and a single Naga Kasser. Even though Flame Tongue Totem got nerfed, Even Shaman is still a very powerful deck. The specific build is running cards such as Galaka Crawler, Wind Fury, Menacing Nimbus, and Hex. Anyfin Paladin was a deck introduced from a Chinese meta report, and it was very heavily popularized by the standard players when they came in to qualify for the Wild Open, so this is an excellent deck to ladder with. It's also running the Thakal Molten Giant high roll package. Another deck that the standard players introduced to the Wild format is Mecha'Thun Warlock. This is a deck that cycles very quickly through the deck to try and get into fatigue, so that Mecha'Thun can come down and get destroyed with Blood Bloom, Cataclysm to insta-kill your opponent. Even Warlock is still a very strong deck in the current meta. It's very punishing against aggressive decks such as Kingsbane, Odd Rogue, Even Shaman, Paladin decks. Definitely a very strong deck to climb with. Mojo Master Zihi is also a nice tech introduced so that you can shut down a lot of the OTK decks that are out there. Cube Warlock is another powerful Warlock deck. This list by Frobro is running Prince Taldaram and double Faceless Manipulators. And finally, for tier 1 we have Reno Lock. Reno Lock has always been a good go-to deck for control enthusiasts, and this list is teched against the greed, running cards such as Rin the First Disciple and Skulking Geist. At tier 2, I have Secret Mage, Big Priest, Odd Paladin, Odd Warrior, Master's Call Hunter, Odd Rogue, Reno Mage, and Reno Priest. Secret Mage is making a bit of a comeback with the reduced amount of Even Shaman and Odd Rogue in the meta. So this specific list is made to help deal with control a little bit more, running cards such as Potion of Polymorph and Primordial Glyph. Big Priest is still alive and strong. This specific list by M3S has had a lot of success for him, running 1 Excavated Evil, 2 Mass Hysterias, and a Light Bomb for board clears. Odd Paladin is still a deck that is not going anywhere anytime soon. The nerf to level up, yes, it hurt the deck, but Quartermaster is still an excellent card. This specific build is built to help against the Warlocks, which is why we're seeing a double Iron Beak Owl in this list. Odd Warrior is also an excellent control deck if you want to punish the aggression on the ladder. This is Zeddy's build that he's used over time. It's running tech cards such as Gluttonous Ooze, Big Game Hunter, and Ziliax to combo with your mechs to heal for very large amounts when you're running into a bit of trouble. It's also running Coldlight Oracle to help push fatigue for your opponent. Master's Call Hunter is a new hunter deck that's only recently hit the wild meta. This is a deck that heavily relies on beast synergies and uses Master's Call to try and tutor those beasts to your hand as quick as possible. Odd Rogue is still alive and strong. However, I personally had a lot of trouble finding any lists. I couldn't find any lists on Reddit or Twitter, so this specific list, although very unique, is the list by Sphinx Manatee, who won the NA Wild Open. You'll notice there are cards such as Wolf Rider and Archerous Veteran, which are not standard for Odd Rogue. You'll also notice that there are no Dark Eigen Skulkers in this list. I actually went 4-2 with this list. Is it actually good though? Let me know in the comments. I'd be really interested to see how you did with this deck. Reno Mage is a bit of a sleeper deck that people are starting to experiment with a little bit more. This specific build is designed to have a pretty good chance against Big Priest, as well as any other control deck out there, and naturally Reno Mage is quite good against aggressive decks. This build is also running a Skulking Geist, just because of the very slowly increasing number of Jade Druids, and it can also cause some trouble for the Kingsbane Rogues. Reno Priest is another deck that is not experimented with too much, but is quite powerful. Memnarch has been innovating the NA ladder with his specific builds, and his most successful builds are typically the combo-driven builds that run Spawn of Shadows, Prophet Valens, Barrage Callers to try and get ridiculous OTKs out of nowhere for your opponent. At tier 3, we have quite a few decks to look at here. We have Aggro Paladin, Jade Druid, Dragon Priest, which is an Inner Fire take, Togwaggle Druid, Jade Shaman, Exodia Mage, Pirate Warrior, Spell and Secret Hunter, APM Priest, Mech Hunter, Aggro Druid, and Big Rogue. Now there are a variety of different Aggro Paladin lists out there. There's the Giants, the Cowl build, there's the Egg build. I'm sharing the most successful build I've seen, which is Corbet's Rank 1 Legend Mech Paladin. This runs cards such as Kengor's Endless Army to help you just get ridiculous boards because of the mech synergies in the deck. Jade Druid is a deck that fell off the meta and is slowly coming back. Evil Devil is an excellent Jade Druid player, and this is his most successful list. It's an anti-aggro list running Tower Creepers and double Starfalls. Jonarar is one of the top Dragon Priest Inner Fire players, and this is the list that he brought to top 8 of the Wild Open 2019. You'll notice that in this specific list we have a single Fire Tree Witch Doctor and a single Twilight Drake. He is Notaxel, who is an HCT champion, Kit Legend last month with his take on Jade Shadowwalk Shaman. This is actually a really fun deck to play. Very interesting decisions while you're planning out your turns, and I definitely recommend giving this deck a try. Exodia Mage is also a deck that can catch people off guard, and we have got Jonarar's list again, which he brought to the Wild Open 2019 Top 8 Championships. Pirate Warrior is still a thing, though it has a lot of trouble now with all the taunts in the meta, such as Void Lords pulled out early, Thing from Below's, but it's still a good deck to ladder if you can hit the right matchups. This is Ben from Work's list, inspired from Controller Board's list, which Ben from Work brought to the Wild Open 2019. The interesting tech here is the single Shield Breaker to help deal with those taunts a little earlier, or just to manage your mana a bit more efficiently. Spell Hunter is still a deck that has a lot of potential. Duan has been trying to innovate the meta with his particular builds. This is a more traditional build of Spell Hunter, which runs the Barnes and Yashaj high roll package, but this package is not necessary, and there are other takes of this deck that you might want to try out. Similar with Secret Hunter, Duin has been taking the charge on how this deck has been playing out. Again, we've featured one of his more traditional builds, but if you want to check out Duin's Hunter list, you can always check him out on Twitter at twitter.com/DuinHS. APM Priest is a very high skill deck that's very rewarding if you can pull off the lethals. Bananaramic is one of the innovators of these decks in Wild, and this is his list that he brought to the Wild Open 2019. Aggro Druid is also making a bit of a comeback. There have been mech variants, there have been beast variants, and it's definitely a deck worth experimenting with. This specific list has had the most success on the current Wild ladder. Mech Hunter has also seen an increase in popularity, mainly because of the cheapness of the deck. This specific list is a bit more expensive than the usual free-to-play ones, running the legendaries Leroy Jenkins and Ziliax. And finally, for Tier 3, we have Big Rogue. This specific list by Ruffle was brought to the Wild Open 2019, and it's a very powerful deck if you can draw your cards in the right order. Unfortunately, if you don't draw your cards in the right order, it can be devastating, especially against aggressive decks. And finally, we have Tier 4. These are the meme decks, the silly decks that may not necessarily get you very high up the ladder, but they're definitely really fun to play. No Hands Gamer has had a lot of success with his take on Anyfin Paladin. You can see that there are some very spicy cards in here, such as Crystal Smith Kangor, Wind Fury Harpy, the Glass Knight. Definitely a fun tech deck to try out, and a lot of room for innovation. Malagos Shaman has taken a more aggressive stance, and this is Corbett's Rank 1 Legend list, and the goal here is to either play your Malagos with all the spell reductions, or pull it out early with Barnes and Ancestor's Call and catch your opponent completely off guard. Control Mage is a deck you probably won't want to try out, but I want to mention it here just for completeness. And this is Spiral's list that he brought to the Wild Open 2019. Again, this has been a very unexplored archetype in Wild, so maybe you can innovate it yourself and come up with some amazing list to shoot up the ladder. Control Warlock is also a deck that people have been tinkering with. However, Mecha'Thun Warlock does tend to do a much better job. Basically, what makes this a Control Warlock deck is the inclusion of Rin, the inclusion of Dirty Rats, and just disruption effects to try and grind out your opponent. Quest Rogue is another deck that people don't tend to play very much. There was one person who brought it to the Wild Open 2019, so I'm featuring Zez's list here. You can try it out if you want to blast to the past, but be warned, you will get stomped over like there's no tomorrow by aggressive decks. And then we have Deadman's Hand Warrior. This is a deck that I've actually seen on the ladder more often than not. This is Butter's list that he's had success with, and it's just a really fun deck if you like to play games that can last up to an hour long. So that concludes the decks that I think will be great to ladder with post Nerf's February 2019. The deck codes are all available in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, feel free to drop a like or subscribe to the channel. I also stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/Slizzle466, and I tweet various Hearthstone related items at twitter.com/Slizzle466. Also, special thanks to EK Designer for making these images for you today, and I hope to all see you again.